Welcome to the Biblical Perspectives for Leadership podcast, where timeless biblical truths meet modern leadership. We are thrilled to have you join us on this journey of exploring how biblical principles can guide us in leading with wisdom, integrity, and purpose. Whether you're leading in the church, your workplace, or your community, this podcast is designed to inspire, challenge, and equip you for the road ahead. Let's dive into today's conversation and discover how Scripture shapes the way we lead.
Welcome back to Biblical Perspectives for Leadership. Today we're diving into Ephesians chapter 6, a passage that might surprise you with its depth when it comes to leadership lessons.
Yeah, you're right. It's not the first place most people would turn to for leadership advice, but there's a rich tapestry of wisdom woven into this chapter. Applies to leadership in all areas of life.
Okay, let's unpack this. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, start by addressing a seemingly simple relationship, parents and children.
And what's fascinating is that it highlights the reciprocal nature of that relationship. Children are instructed to obey their parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. That's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. But it doesn't stop there. Verse 4 tells fathers not to provoke their children to wrath, but to bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. There's this beautiful balance between authority and understanding on both sides.
That's a powerful observation. We often think of leadership as a top-down structure. But this passage is reminding us that even when you're in a position of authority, you have a responsibility to lead with compassion and create a healthy dynamic.
Precisely. It's not about demanding obedience through force, but rather fostering an environment of respect and understanding where growth can occur. This applies to leadership in the workplace and families, and even in our personal lives. It's about understanding the perspective of those we lead and nurturing their development.
Well, it's like being a gardener tending to a delicate plant.
Yeah.
Providing the right conditions for it to flourish.
Exactly. And that nurturing approach is so crucial for building trust, which is the foundation of any successful leader-follower relationship.
And moving on to Ephesians chapter 6, verses 5 through 9, we encounter this concept of servant leadership. This section speaks to servants and masters, which might seem a bit outdated at first glance.
It's true. The social context is different. But the principle of servant leadership transcends time. This passage reminds us that leadership isn't about wielding power or seeking personal gain. It's about serving others, using your influence to empower and uplift those you lead.
And we see this beautifully illustrated in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 8, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man doeth, the same shall he receive of the Lord, whether he be bond or free. It's a reminder that true reward comes from serving a purpose greater than ourselves.
And that's a powerful motivator for any leader. When we shift our focus from self-serving ambition to serving others, we tap into a source of fulfillment and impact. That transcends any worldly measure of success.
So it's about leading with humility.
Yeah.
And a genuine desire to make a positive difference in the lives of those we influence.
Absolutely. Servant leadership is about empowering others, helping them grow, and creating an environment where everyone can thrive.
Now, as the story unfolds, we come to Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 13, where the emphasis shifts to the importance of standing strong in the face of adversity. The chapter opens with this powerful declaration. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. That's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10. This verse seems to be a call to resilience.
It absolutely is. Leading others requires an inner strength, an unwavering commitment to your values, and a willingness to stand firm even when it's difficult. This passage acknowledges that we are not meant to face challenges alone. Our strength is found in connecting to something greater than ourselves.
That resonates with me. I've often found that in moments of uncertainty or doubt, it's my faith or my deeply held values that give me the courage to keep going.
And that's a common experience for many leaders. The challenges they face often require them to draw on a source of strength that goes beyond their own capabilities. Whether that source is faith, a deep sense of purpose, or the support of community, it provides the resilience to persevere even when things get tough.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 14 through 17, introduce this striking analogy of the armor of God. It's almost like a checklist for spiritual and emotional preparedness for leaders.
It's such a vivid and powerful metaphor. Paul is essentially saying, if you're going to be an effective leader, you need to be prepared for battle. You need to be equipped to face the spiritual and emotional challenges that will inevitably come your way. Each piece of this armor represents a crucial element of that preparation.
Right, he talks about the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of the preparation of the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. It's an impressive arsenal.
And it begs the question, what does your personal armor as a leader look like? What tools, skills, or mindsets do you rely on to face challenges with confidence?
It's like a call to self-reflection. Do you have a strong foundation of integrity? Are you prepared to stand up for what you believe in? Are you equipped to navigate conflicts with grace and wisdom?
And perhaps most importantly, how do you connect with the source of strength that sustains you through difficult times?
Okay, so we've got our armor on, we're ready to face the world. But there's one more crucial element that Paul highlights in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 18. Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. It seems that even with all the preparation in the world, we still need to connect to a source of guidance and strength beyond ourselves.
This is such a vital reminder. Even the most well-equipped leader needs to stay connected to their source of wisdom, guidance, and strength. Prayer, or any form of spiritual practice that resonates with you, becomes a lifeline in the challenging journey of leadership.
It's about acknowledging that we don't have to do it all alone. It's about seeking wisdom, guidance, and strength from a source that's greater than ourselves.
And it's not just about asking for what we need, it's also about cultivating gratitude for the support we receive and fostering an awareness of being guided even when the path ahead seems uncertain.
It sounds like the key takeaway here is that true leadership is not about having all the answers or going it alone. It's about being humble enough to ask for help, seek guidance, and trust that you're not alone in the journey. What stands out to you?
Oh, it's about recognizing that we're all part of something bigger than ourselves, and that we can draw on that connection for strength, guidance, and inspiration.
That's a beautiful thought. It takes the pressure off this idea of the lone wolf leader who's supposed to have it all figured out. Instead, it paints a picture of leadership as a shared journey, where we can lean on each other, seek guidance from those who have gone before us, and ultimately grow together.
And that sense of shared purpose, that reliance on something greater than ourselves, is ultimately what gives us the strength and resilience to lead with courage, compassion, and integrity.
Okay, so we've talked about honoring authority, leading with understanding and compassion, standing strong in our beliefs, equipping ourselves with the armor of God, and seeking guidance through prayer. That's a lot to unpack. Now, I'd love to hear your perspective on how these principles from Ephesians chapter 6 can be applied to everyday life, regardless of whether someone holds a formal leadership position.
You're right. These principles are incredibly practical and relevant to all of us, even if we don't see ourselves as leaders in the traditional sense. Take the idea of servant leadership, for example. It's not just about leading a team at work. It's about approaching all our relationships with a mindset of service. It's about asking ourselves, how can I contribute? How can I make a positive difference in the lives of those around me? Whether it's helping a friend in need, volunteering in our community, or simply being a more patient and understanding spouse or parent, the principles of servant leadership can transform our everyday interactions.
I love how you frame that. It's about shifting our focus from what we can get to what we can give. And that shift in perspective can have a ripple effect, creating a more positive and supportive environment for everyone involved. What about the armor of God analogy? How can that concept be applied to our daily lives?
That's a great question. The armor of God is about being prepared for the inevitable challenges that life throws our way. And those challenges aren't always external. Sometimes the biggest battles we face are within ourselves. Think about the belt of truth, for example. It's about being honest with ourselves, acknowledging our weaknesses, and striving to live in alignment with our values. Or consider the shield of faith. It's about having a belief system that sustains us during difficult times, that gives us hope when we feel discouraged, and that reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
That's so powerful. It's like the armor of God provides a framework for building inner strength and resilience, for facing those everyday challenges with courage and grace.
Exactly. And when we cultivate those qualities within ourselves, it not only helps us navigate our own lives more effectively, but also allows us to be a source of strength and support for others. It's like we become a beacon of light, radiating positivity and encouragement to those around us.
And that brings us back to the idea that leadership is not about a title or position, but about the impact we have on others. It's about the way we show up in the world, the values we embody, and the choices we make.
I couldn't agree more. Leadership is about inspiring others, not by force or coercion, but by the way we live our lives. It's about demonstrating integrity, compassion, and courage in our everyday actions. It's about being the change we want to see in the world.
Now, you mentioned earlier that the story of Ephesians chapter 6 isn't the first place people would typically turn to for leadership advice. What do you think makes this particular passage so unique and valuable in its approach to leadership?
I think what sets Ephesians chapter 6 apart is its emphasis on the inner work of leadership. It's not just about strategies or techniques. It's about cultivating the character qualities that make us effective and ethical leaders. It's about recognizing that true leadership flows from a place of inner strength, humility, and a deep connection to a source of wisdom and guidance beyond ourselves. And that message is just as relevant today as it was when it was written centuries ago.
It's almost like a blueprint for building a foundation of integrity and resilience, both within ourselves and in the way we interact with the world.
I love that analogy. It's like we're laying the groundwork for a life of purpose and impact, one brick at a time.
Okay, so we've explored how the principles of Ephesians chapter 6 can be applied to everyday life, even if someone doesn't hold a formal leadership role. But for those who are actively leading teams or organizations, what specific insights from this passage can help them navigate the complexities of leadership?
That's a fantastic question. And I think Ephesians chapter 6 offers a wealth of practical wisdom for those in leadership positions. First and foremost, it reminds us that leadership is a calling to service. It's not about power or privilege. It's about using your influence to empower others to create a positive work environment and to achieve goals that benefit the collective good.
That's a powerful reminder, especially in a world that often glorifies individual ambition and success.
Absolutely. And it's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of personal gain or recognition. But Ephesians chapter 6 calls us to a higher standard of leadership, one that prioritizes the well-being of those we lead. It's about creating a culture of trust, respect, and collaboration where everyone feels valued and supported.
So it's not just about what we achieve, but how we achieve it.
Precisely. The means are just as important as the ends. And that's where the principles of servant leadership, standing strong in our beliefs and equipping ourselves with the armor of God, becomes so crucial.
Can you elaborate on how those principles play out in a leadership context?
Sure. Let's start with servant leadership. In a practical sense, this means leading with humility, actively listening to your team members, valuing their input, and empowering them to take ownership of their work. It's about creating a culture of shared responsibility and mutual respect where everyone feels like they have a voice and a stake in the organization's success.
That sounds like a recipe for a highly engaged and motivated team.
It absolutely is. And it's in stark contrast to the traditional top-down command and control style of leadership that often leads to disengagement and resentment.
What about the concept of standing strong in your beliefs? How does that translate into effective leadership?
Standing strong in your beliefs is about having a clear set of values and principles that guide your decisions and actions as a leader. It's about being willing to make tough choices, even when they're unpopular, if they align with what you believe is right. It's about having the courage to stand up for what you believe in, even in the face of opposition or pressure to conform.
That takes a lot of inner strength and conviction.
It does. And that's where the armor of God analogy comes in. Ephesians chapter 6 reminds us that we need to be prepared for the inevitable challenges and battles that come with leadership. And that preparation is not just about having the right skills or knowledge. It's about cultivating the inner qualities of resilience, integrity, and faith that allow us to withstand pressure, navigate difficult situations with grace, and emerge from challenges stronger than before.
It's like we're building a suit of armor for our hearts and minds, fortifying ourselves against the negativity, doubt, and fear that can so easily derail us as leaders.
I love that image. It's about protecting our inner core, nurturing our spiritual and emotional well-being so that we can lead from a place of strength, clarity, and compassion.
And that brings us back to the importance of prayer or connecting to the source of guidance beyond ourselves. How does that practice support leaders in their roles?
Prayer, or any form of spiritual practice that resonates with you, is about recognizing that you don't have all the answers. It's about seeking wisdom, guidance, and strength from a source that's greater than yourself. And for leaders, that can be an incredibly grounding and empowering practice. It helps to keep our egos in check, reminds us that we're part of something larger than ourselves, and provides a sense of peace and perspective when we're facing difficult decisions or challenging circumstances.
It's like we're tapping into a wellspring of wisdom and support that's always available to us.
Exactly. And that connection can be a lifeline for leaders, helping them to stay centered, make wise choices, and lead with integrity and compassion, even in the midst of storms.
Okay, so we've explored how the principles of Ephesians chapter 6 can be applied to everyday life and how they can be particularly valuable for those in formal leadership roles. Now, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how this passage can help us navigate the unique challenges of leadership in the modern world.
That's a great question. The world has changed dramatically since Ephesians was written, but the principles it outlines are timeless and surprisingly relevant to the challenges leaders face today. Think about the rapid pace of change, the constant influx of information, and the increasing complexity of the problems we're trying to solve. It can feel overwhelming even for the most seasoned leaders.
Absolutely. It's like we're constantly being bombarded with new demands, expectations, and challenges. And it can be difficult to stay grounded, focused, and effective in the midst of all that chaos.
That's where the principles of Ephesians chapter 6 become so crucial. First and foremost, the emphasis on connecting to a source of strength beyond ourselves is more important than ever. Whether it's through prayer meditations, spending time in nature, or simply cultivating a deep sense of purpose, it's essential for leaders to have a source of grounding and renewal that helps them stay centered and resilient in the face of constant change and pressure. Host speaker. It's like we need to create our own oasis of calm amidst the storm.
Exactly. We need to build those practices into our lives, prioritize our well-being, and make sure we're taking care of ourselves both physically and emotionally. Otherwise, we risk burnout, depletion, and ultimately ineffective leadership.
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the doing and forget about the being. But if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't possibly lead others effectively. What other insights from Ephesians chapter 6 can help leaders navigate the complexities of the modern world? The concept of putting on the armor of God is incredibly relevant in today's world. Think about the constant barrage of negativity, criticism, and conflict that we're exposed to, especially in the digital age. It can be easy to get discouraged, defensive, or even cynical. But Ephesians chapter 6 reminds us that we have a choice in how we respond. We can choose to put on the helmet of salvation, protecting our minds from negativity and fear. We can choose to wield the sword of the Spirit, using our words to uplift, encourage, and inspire, rather than to tear down or criticize. And we can choose to stand firm in our beliefs, even when they're unpopular or challenging, knowing that we're grounded in something larger than ourselves.
That's a powerful reminder. It's about choosing to be a force for good, even in the midst of darkness and negativity. It's about leading with integrity, compassion, and courage, no matter what challenges we face.
Exactly. And that's ultimately what sets great leaders apart. It's not their titles, their accomplishments, or their charisma. It's their character, their values, and their unwavering commitment to making a positive difference in the world.
And that's a message that resonates deeply, both in the context of leadership and in our everyday lives.
I couldn't agree more.
As we delve deeper into this study of Ephesians chapter 6, I'm struck by how the passage seamlessly blends personal growth with leadership development. It's not just about becoming a better leader in the external sense, but also about cultivating those inner qualities that make us more grounded, more resilient, and ultimately more effective in all areas of our lives.
It's like Ephesians chapter 6 is saying, hey, if you want to lead others well, you need to start by leading yourself well. It's about that inner work, that self-awareness, that commitment to personal growth and transformation.
And I think that's what makes this chapter so timeless and relevant. Regardless of your specific role or position, those inner qualities of integrity, humility, and resilience are essential for navigating the complexities of life and relationships.
It's not just about what you do, it's about who you are at your core.
And who you are becoming through the challenges you face and the choices you make along the way.
Exactly. It's a reminder that leadership isn't a destination, it's a journey, a constant process of growth and evolution.
I love that. It's about striving to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday, a little bit wiser, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more courageous in how we show up in the world.
And a little bit more grounded in those principles that guide us, that sustain us, and that ultimately make us the best versions of ourselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Ephesians chapter 6, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought, or rather a question to ponder. What specific piece of the armor of God described in Ephesians chapter 6 speaks to you most strongly right now in your own life?
That's a powerful question to reflect on. Is it the belt of truth anchoring you to your values? The breastplate of righteousness protecting your heart? The shoes of the preparation of the gospel of peace guiding your steps? The shield of faith guarding you from doubt? The helmet of salvation shielding your mind? Or the sword of the Spirit empowering you to speak truth and inspire others?
And once you've identified that piece of armor, how can you actively cultivate that aspect within yourself? How can you make it a more tangible and integrated part of your daily life?
That's the real work, the ongoing journey of personal and spiritual growth that Ephesians chapter 6 invites us into. It's about taking those ancient principles and weaving them into the fabric of our modern lives.
It's about recognizing that the tools for effective and meaningful leadership are available to all of us, regardless of our titles or positions.
It's about embracing the challenge of becoming the best versions of ourselves so that we can inspire and empower others to do the same.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ephesians chapter 6. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep leading with courage, compassion, and conviction.
Thank you for joining us on the Biblical Perspectives for Leadership podcast. I hope today's insights have encouraged and equipped you to lead with faith, wisdom, and purpose. Remember, the greatest leader of all time taught us that true leadership is about serving others. If you enjoyed this episode and podcast, be sure to subscribe, share it with others, and leave a review. It helps us reach more people with these transformative truths. Until next time, keep leading with grace and walking in purpose.